it made me very disillusioned and very sad when I read this article and then saw the screenshot evidence.
I think
And
the social media platform and groups is just actually it probably is exacerbating it to some level, but it's exposing it.
yeah, I mean it's making me very sad because
It's
I just shows like I've always had this uncon no, not unconscious. It's always been in the back of my mind, but conscious thought or worry that we as psychotherapists, even though our master's degrees were 60-hour master's degrees, we're still undereducated.
yeah, I don't even know if it's I mean, yes, it is education to a degree, but I think it's more so innate character traits. So I think
Yeah, well,
you
you're right. I mean, it is innate character traits. You're absolutely right.
because
And
the
I'm
problem
just, yeah.
with vetting for people applying to counseling programs is it is not very strenuous. If you score decent and you have a decent GPA, you're in.
And I'm wondering, are these programs not very rigorous? So then people don't get like self-initiated termination, like, or even,
Well, you have to think that a lot of the people that are vetting applications are also going to have those character traits of appeasement and seeing the good in others. 'Cause
mhm.
those are common characteristics of therapists.
Well, yeah, but then this post showed the exact opposite. This not post, this article I read that these people are specifically targeting clients without any sort of appeasement or seeing the good in others or having hope for humanity or any sort of like positive quality like that.
Right. So they probably received that in grad school vetting process, but doesn't mean they're going to echo that to their clients.
No, and it's very unethical. I mean, the number one principle or rule of our profession is do no harm. And I just can't even imagine
I really
receive
don't
yeah.
I don't see how it becomes a main topic of therapy. Like there are some that get very invested in the political climate and landscape, but it's not a common thing that I experience with clients because I think we're speaking more localized.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this article also screenshot other therapists' remarks about clients who just somehow disclose that they didn't even vote or apolitical. They too are being targeted. So it's like that very scary phenomenon that happens in groups where it's um right thought versus incorrect thought. And if you don't have the correct thought process, you're discriminated against and must be subjected to re-education until you decide to have right thought.
A really effective tool when you believe that you're discriminated is to just discriminate.
Well, that's what these clients are. That's what these therapists are doing.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
They perceive. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, I think what is really frightening me about our profession is this lack of critical thinking, not understanding that we can't design the world the way we want it to be and only treat the clients who reflect our worldview. Like that defeats the whole point of counseling. You're supposed to get into the worldview of the client. It's not about you. It's about what's going on with the client. So even if clients have like a passing remark about politics or no remark about politics, or they're hyper focused about politics, it doesn't matter what my point of view is.
Yeah, it speaks to a larger issue is therapists that prescribe value to a client's ideology or behavior.
Yes.
So that like
Yes.
that post I had sent you where the therapist talked about how a male client had perceived that his wife was weaponizing the lack of sex in the relationship. So
Did
like
you send that to me? When was that?
maybe I did. Like he had conceptualized his marriage to where she was withholding sex to manipulate or control. And the way that she conceptualized that, she used a lot of words like gross and like how he was wrong and that she needs to like refer him out or something. And
Oh,
my
okay.
response was like, I'm unsure how that's gross. And also, he could be right and he could be wrong. It doesn't matter. It's his perception.
Yeah, it's the meaning he ascribes to this
Like it
perception of behavior.
doesn't matter if that's accurate. You're not going to find out anyway. But like prescribing some kind of negative adjective as gross um, speaks to what I'm talking about, where
Hmm.
they're focusing on prescribing value to what a client is doing or not doing. And what is that based on? Well, it's based on their subjective value system, right? There's no like AI we can refer to for an objective value system and then compare it to where a client is. It's you're basing it on your own biases.
Yeah.
And my guess is she's probably fucking done that before to a guy. And
Yeah, and that
chain of
ultimately, without
events.
checking that, she's harming him, right? Because it's possible she could then elicit a sense of shame in him,
Yeah.
yeah, for even
Like
wanting a sexual relationship with his
news
wife.
flash. Uh Females do that. Crazy thought. It happens. That is, like sexuality and with women, that is where there's a big power source.
How so?
Like within a relationship, if that is the case, right? If I know, oh, my husband wants sex, but he's not doing X, Y, or Z, that has nothing to do with that, then it could be a useful tool to punish the person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, using it as leverage. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that cuts both ways.
Right. But I'm
Oh,
saying
definitely.
not such an outrageous thing to have a perception that your wife or husband is doing that. Like that is not like pathological.
To perceive that's what's going on.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
not a big jump. That's not like me
So
saying,
then you're saying that this therapist's bias is that she's biased towards the idea that women are incapable, or it's not likely that any woman would use sex as a tool of manipulation.
and she probably conceptualizes him as a narcissist.
Ah,
You know, it's not
yeah.
the same as
Everybody's a narcissist these
like a
days.
client coming to me and being convinced that his wife is secretly in the middle of the night poking him so that he can't sleep. Right? Like that is a bit bizarre. And maybe she is, right? I don't know. What is his perception of that? I mean, more often than not, though, there's some kind of psychotic feature.
Mhm. Like a delusion, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I don't know. I can't vet that. I'm not there's not a ring camera in their bedroom that I can look at every night and see if she's doing it.
Mm. But right, so like as a
Not even
therapist, I
engage in
would just
truth
give that guy or the client, the male client, the benefit of the doubt that this really is going on
because she could be
until
crazy.
there's some other data that comes to light that maybe proves him wrong or he self-corrects or something. But that's what I'm talking about, like grace. You have to, we're not fact finders, we're not investigators. So we have to give our clients grace when they come and present us an issue. We have to just, there has to be like some measure of believability, or at least we have to act as though we believe the client uh, to buy goodwill,
Yeah,
to develop that therapeutic rapport.
it's very backwards from my experience working with clients. Like I do not care what they do or don't do. I really don't. Like I want what's best for them. I would like to see them grow, but it's not going to negatively impact my day if they're doing something that I don't think they should do or believe in a way that I don't think they should. There's like a healthy distance from that.
And I think that's what frightens me about these therapists. And I'm glad maybe it is good that they're revealing this about themselves. But that's what frightens me is that there's not this healthy distance. That if your client, that they're writing these posts as though they believe the client having any value or point of view or political leanings different than their own is a violent affront to their existence.
Right.
Well, good luck with that. Good luck finding people who mirror your exact life. And by people, I mean clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all very bizarre.
It is very bizarre. And it's really sad when it feels like the therapists are sicker than the clients. I mean, you expect a client to come in with a point of view that the world's out to get them and, they're in the dating world and they won't go on dates with people who have any semblance of a differing opinion on any subject matter. You would expect that from a client.
And
But
even
to
if you
get
have that characteristic as a person, when you're in the room as a therapist, you should be turning that off.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a very there's a vacuum of self-awareness with those therapists.
Yeah. And I can't help but wonder if it's also being fueled by the training institutions, the graduate schools that are waving these banners of ideological concepts such as, advocacy and social justice, which are great and noble values, don't get me wrong, but they can't substitute critical thinking. They can't substitute fundamental principles of counseling and counseling ethics.
Yeah, as a therapist sitting in the chair, your role is not to be a political activist and adjust your client's worldview. If
Exactly.
you want to go on a march or go to the city hall meetings or run for mayor, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Because adjusting people's worldview, I mean, I'm glad you used that phrase. I mean, that's dangerous. That's harmful. It's the client's job to adjust his or her own worldview based upon his or her own values. And then as a therapist, we might get inside that worldview as we're allowed to do and help the client find their own solutions using their own value system.
Mm, yep.
Well, yeah. So I'm glad you joined the one group I suggested because I'm hoping it'll bring more critical thinking to our profession, to our case conceptualization.
I
I
did
mean,
see
yeah,
something, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But once that bisection happened, someone perceived that as like an attack on LGBTQ or transgender rights. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting that that would be perceived as an attack on that.
ex- because so many people do not want to hear a differing opinion. They have no tolerance for somebody not agreeing with them.
Well, yeah, and I think it evokes their own sense of shame, and so the anger protects it.
Yeah, it's misdirected. It's misdirected. I don't know. Did I suggest the podcast with the name of the podcast is Diary of the CEO, and the specific episode is with an evolutionary psychologist. Um I'm going to mispronounce his name, but it looks like Sad, GADSAAD.
I've I know that name.
He's
Oh,
written many, many books about evolutionary psychology and the practical applications of the same. But anyway, in this episode, he was talking a lot about how he's come under fire from his own profession for publishing the results of research, of empirically derived research, um, about evolutionary psychology and, like biological mechanisms and whatnot. And it was very interesting to think that, at his level, at a PhD level, he too is experiencing kind of this right think versus wrong think group dynamics.
yeah, which ironically is an immense deterrent for people that are more right leaning to vote any other way. It's the political correctness or the censorship or right wrong thinking. It's like a retaliation against that.
Yeah, I mean, I think all points of view are welcome,
We saw
right?
I saw that with the Joe Rogan podcast, which he's historically been more left leaning, but he invites all sorts of political figures on, And I know that Trump and his Vance, they came on, and it was like a 3 hour long uninterrupted interview.
Did you listen to it?
Not all of it, but I listened to some of it. And
I
then
listened to the whole thing. It was really well done.
and then I know that Harris was gonna do it, but then they had all these stipulations. It needed to be
Hmm.
45 minutes. They needed like the final edit. And I think that's very unattractive and perceived as like inauthentic and untrustworthy to a vast amount of people. But the
Yeah.
Democratic Party like has gotten very invested in that in the last decade or two. And there's like a retaliation from that.
A retaliation from that
The
self-directed
censorship.
censorship. Okay.
And
As there should be, right? I mean, how can we be a free marketplace of ideas as a country if ideas are not allowed?
yeah. Yeah, and the censorship, it's kind of funny too because it's like you're speaking to a subpopulation. The vast amount of population has privilege to where they're not going to be shame evoked by your lack of like precise communication. So you're not going to get majority votes doing that. In simple math.
Well, if people value free speech, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what I liked about Trump's interview, and yeah, it was 3 hours. What I liked about it was that he spoke of his time in office with such personal fondness. Like he painted such a picture and invited the listener into his stories, and you can tell that these various moments in time during that 4 years really struck a chord with him, and he could relate what he experienced at a very precise and make meaning of it, and almost like make meaning of it for the listener. But it felt like I don't know, like as he was talking, I was driving, but so I should have been paying attention to the road probably more, but I could envision everything he was saying in my mind's eye, and it just showed me like he was really not taking anything for granted about his time in office.
Well,
And
and
I thought that was very personable.
yeah, that's a very important part of being attractive to a large amount of people is like showing your humanity or your authentic self, even if it's chaotic or unaccepted by many. It's still perceived as I know what I'm getting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it was very authentic, and I think that's what appealed to so many people. Yeah, because he didn't come across as produced,
Yeah.
and I think Harris unfortunately has come across as produced. And for whatever reason, I mean, I hate public speaking too. I mean, even doing these podcasts gives me like little butterflies in my stomach. But she's speaking on a world stage, and I don't think she's a very competent, spontaneous speaker of her own thoughts and ideas.
And I think
And I think and that's unfortunate.
the surfacing of social media has had an impact on culture to where there's a lot there's a lot more fear as to what someone's saying and what it means.
Well, I mean, I get in terms of like sound bites being used as like the
Yeah,
context is stripped away.
but then like the internet has allowed people to like do their own research, whether it's accurate or inaccurate, and then create their own understanding of something. And so when you hear something that seems very curated, I think it's a large amount of the culture in the US is they're not going to buy into it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
There's a cultural skepticism to politics.
Yeah, because it's been curated and broken down into sound bites, and we're spoon-fed information as though we're, hysterical babies who can't handle the truth. Yeah, I mean, I think that's frustrating for people.
The funny part too is like all this free speech stuff. I don't remember where I saw this, and it may have been bullshit, but we rank pretty high on like national censorship in on the world stage.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, we're not as so far as like Great Britain, who's allegedly jailing people for Facebook posts. So we haven't gotten to that place yet. But I think it's important to allow, even if you disagree with the person, even if you think the person's repulsive, I mean, I think all voices should be allowed to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I guess that brings me back to my point with the therapists who are making these posts about terminating professional relationships with clients who have, differing ideological opinions. How can they help that client find their voice or find their authentic voice or find acceptance in this world
you know what I want to
if
say
they're
without
using, yeah,
any filter is I just want to call them a pussy. Like
like,
someone needs to call them a pussy.
yeah, I mean, like, man up, dude. I mean, it's like, why would you
And you
treat
know
somebody like
their
that?
response would be that that's toxic masculinity culture. That'd be the response.
Yeah, because it's easier to say that than to think about like to think about the criticism that's being elicited.
I mean, I wouldn't say it, but
I know.
yeah. But yeah, I live under a rock, so
What is going on under your rock?
it's my own world. Video editing, rock climbing. It's pretty localized.
That's good. I see all your instruments behind you. You still writing music? Or you put together an album recently?
Yeah, it's releasing on the 1st of December. Be like I think 16 songs that I've been hoarding throughout my 20s. And so I'm gonna birth them into the ether.
That's awesome. Did your friend help you produce them?
A lot of it. Now I have pretty much most of the stuff that I can just produce it myself. Unless it's full band. I need to track drums, then I'll go there.
Hmm. Oh, good. Well, I look forward to listening to it.
Yeah, just gonna drop it and then I'll wake up and I'll have like 5 billion views. It'll be great.
I hope you do. I hope you do.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Just don't,
you gotta play the hand to win the hand.
yeah, just don't have any wrong think in your lyrics.
Oh yeah. No, all my lyrics are just me being left by women.
Is it your breakup album? Is it going to be like Alanis Morissette? I don't know if you've ever listened to that album from 94.
Well, fortunately it was like a 10-year long process, so it's more eclectic than if I, just did an EP right after a breakup. That would just be like a sad boy EP. This is more I would say it's breakup, but also like existential and like self-reflective.
Well, we need more of that in this world for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because songwriting for me is initially about my own processing. I'm just happening to like record it and put it out somewhere.
Hmm.
So it's like my own process of reflection and healing and then expression that people can interpret however they would like.
What genre of music is it?
Say it kind of wavers between indie rock and folk.
Okay, so I'll never come across it then. Just kidding.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm just teasing you. I'll find it on Spotify.
Well, you can hit the pre-save link and it'll just pop right in there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I
did apply to playlists and stuff, so I don't know. Hopefully I get on some of those.
kind of when you just said that, it reminds me of like Bon Iver. Do you know him, that artist?
Yeah. It's
He's a
pronounced Bon
musician.
Iver, but yeah.
Oh, is it? I don't know. I've
I
never
said
heard it.
Bon Iver for like a number of years and then realized it was Bon Iver.
That can't be the original spelling though, right? That's got to be like his
Yeah, he's a
stage
weird dude.
spelling.
I don't know. That's not his name.
Hmm.
His name's Jeffrey or like something.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he just came out with a new EP,
Okay.
Bonavera.
I can only take so much of that. It's a little too like, I mean, after having, grown up in the 80s and 90s listening to Morrissey, The Smiths, The Cure, for example,
Mhm.
like listening to more of that as an adult is kind of like, I don't know, all these themes I feel like I've already been exposed to and through other artists. But I really do like though, Bon Iver and the National, is it the National?
The
Who did
Nationals.
yeah, I think they did a collaboration of Weird Goodbyes. I liked that one. That was really very poignant.
Yeah, the Cure and Smiths, like I and Radiohead. I listened to them in my late teens, early 20s. Good bit.
Yeah.
Good bands. I saw the
Yeah.
Cure probably 10 years ago.
Oh, really? Yeah, I saw them many, many, many years ago. But yeah, they were really, I enjoyed they do a good concert.
Yeah.
Then swinging in the other direction, back in March, I think it was March or January, February, I don't remember. I saw Ricky Martin.
Holy
That
shit.
was awesome.
I remember
Ricky
when I found
Martin,
out he was
Enrique
gay and I was
Iglesias.
like, what? Like, oh, no shit, he's gay.
Everybody knew he was. I knew that boy was gay since he was 7. Since I was 7. Yeah, that was a really good concert.
Even La Vida Loca.
Oh yeah, total flamer.
I never heard any music outside of that single, I don't think.
Oh yeah, he's got it. His discography goes back to the early 80s
Oh, wow. So he just had a
with
couple hits.
and well he was with Menudo, and then probably in the early 90s he broke off by himself and then steadily has just been gaining more and more presence. Yeah, he's in his early 50s now. I mean, he's been
Oh, it looks
around since
great.
a little
Um,
kid.
and
Oh my
check it
God,
out.
yeah. He's got amazing genetics. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his show was pretty good. It was a little too produced and a little too stiff. I mean, but I had to think, I was like, this guy's got to be exhausted doing the same show night after night in different cities. I mean, that's got to be tiring. But in contrast, Enrique Iglesias, I mean, he performed like it was his first time performing like that tour. Like he seemed very fresh and very involved and enthusiastic, and
Remember
it wasn't
Hero?
as stiff.
I can be your hero, baby.
I don't even know. I wonder if he sang that
Dude,
song.
that guy profited so much off of 9/11. It's not even funny.
Why
Like
was that song played during 9/11?
yes, that was like a
No,
bringing it together like veteran
no,
wife
there's no
I swear.
way.
Came out in like 2000 or something. It was like a theme of 9/11.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
No, I've never heard the
All
two
over
pair together.
that and like I can only imagine by it's like some Christian artist.
I have no. But you were a kid though. I wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, they were playing that stuff everywhere,
I
commercial.
can't even imagine putting Enrique Iglesias in the same soup as 9/11. That's crazy.
Yeah, when everybody's going to war, I can be your hero.
That's not even what
Talking
it's
about first
about.
responders. Hey, it doesn't matter. Isn't that Springsteen song about America where everyone uses it as like proud to be an American, but he's actually saying America sucks? People don't
Okay, I
know the
take
meaning of
back
words.
everything I just said about right think and wrong think. Just kidding. So bad.
All they
That's
hear is I can be
terrible.
your hero, baby.
Ugh.
Then they think about like veterans and like the Marines and blah blah blah. The first responders. Yeah.
It was so funny. I was there with Mike, and it's a Latin show, right? So it doesn't start on time. And Mike, in his Eastern European ways, like he's like, getting all visibly anxious and tapping his foot, and he's like, it's 8 o'clock. The show's supposed to start at 8 o'clock. Why isn't it starting? I was like, dude, relax. It'll start when it starts. We're like on Latin time now. And it didn't start till like 8:45. So I didn't get to see all of Enrique because Mike kind of like clocked out at a certain point.
Did he
So we had to
play
go
hero?
home. I don't think so. That's not one of my favorite
That's like
songs.
the only song I know of his.
Oh my Lord Jesus. No, he had this woman who sang duets with him, and she was incredible. He sang a lot of his Spanish songs,
Mm, yeah.
and then a Pitbull was there too. That was kind of fun, but that was like overproduced too. But yeah, I really enjoyed Enrique.
Where was that at? Like probably the PNC.
Spectrum Center here in Charlotte. Yeah, Spectrum. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, I didn't get to get my favorite, well, of the selection, Ricky Martin t-shirt. They had all sold out, so I had to get some
You have to
tour
order one.
specific, I guess. I was so disappointed.
Maybe that could be a Christmas present.
A year later, yeah, I gotta find my. So it's so funny because like I look in my car, you can search for music on like the um like a specific in auto app, and I look for Ricky Martin all the time, and the kids are like, "No, Martin."
That's your love affair. I'm sorry he's gay.
I know, I know. It's the only man I'd ever leave Mike for.
Ricky Martin, and he wouldn't even want you.
Exactly. Oh, well, story of my life.
That's funny. Well, I'm sure we can piss a couple people off based on what we've talked about today.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get canceled. Maybe we'll like,
Let's get some heated comments on something. Let's get it going.
yeah, about right think versus wrong think. Yeah, I would be very curious to know what other people's thoughts are. And I'd like to know why our profession is being turned into this banner flag of social justice and advocacy. Like, why are we doing that? I don't understand that. I mean, I find those values, I live those values through my religion. I don't want to like have people discriminated against within my profession and then
Well, I think
the people we try to help based upon those values. That doesn't make any sense to me.
well, counseling's father is social work, so that probably has a piece to it.
Well, that sucks because I think social work has been very damaging,
But so,
globally speaking.
like the social work program was before counseling programs.
But we can blame social work for putting Native American children in orphanages
Yeah.
and stripping children from their families because their families happen to have, you know, the non-ideal genetics or non-ideal cultural background, whatever was considered ideal of the day.
Throw them in Catholic schools.
Yeah, Catholic schools or government schools or yeah, exactly.
I actually have a Cherokee client right now, and that's been pretty interesting to talk about like ceremonial stuff and just to hear. I mean, he's not describing it this way, but like the intergenerational trauma and its impacts, and like the vast amounts of violence that a lot of the Native Americans experience in their upbringing. It's fucking crazy.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to wonder like how intergenerational trauma has influenced that to happen. Violence in the here and now, violence against women. I mean, I know that there's a growing social awareness of the sheer quantity of Native American women who've gone missing. That's
Mhm.
fucking scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be, you know, and like I have clients whose, you know, grandparents or great grandparents endured the Holocaust or at least that era of time.
Yeah.
And their families are still dealing with the trauma of that. Yeah, I need to learn more about intergenerational trauma because I find it fascinating to just see the legacy. I mean, you don't even have to know the stories, but it's just all of the adaptations that get passed from parent to child, whether that's people pleasing, whether that's being an anti theist, whether that's being, you know, um, self righteous, even all of these personality adaptations. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think that the epigenetics are often overlooked or minimized.
I just don't think they're understood. I mean, it's just such a complex subject matter.
You know, in college or grad school somewhere, we were studying the effects of epigenetics, and there's like some it was actually a pretty controlled large group of people somewhere in a valley where like their crops weren't weren't growing effectively for like a generation. So an entire generation was like famished, and it showed like the biological impacts of not even psychological or sociological, just like the biological impact on their genome after that for generations after.
I think we're going to see that even more so with North Koreans because of the 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 physiological trauma of being starved,
Mm.
not having good nutrition, and how people are significantly smaller than their genetic counterparts in South Korea. And I think, you're seeing that pass from generation to
You know,
generation.
I heard this, I don't know if it's true, but apparently Kim Jong Un found out his uncle was against him or spoke against the party or something, and that he murdered him, or the assassination was that he sent like he watched and set his uncle a bit away and pulverized him with a rocket.
I've heard things like that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
He murdered his own brother too.
That's like House of or what's the one, Game of Thrones, where like they get the dragon out and they just sick the dragon on somebody and just
Just burn
spew
him.
all over them. Like that's fucking crazy. Like that actually is happening. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy enough, you're gonna like send a incendiary rocket and put this person into dust. Crazy.
Yeah. See, that's what
I
happens
didn't
when,
grow up there.
yeah. And that's like an extreme example of wrong think versus right think, right? Like if you exhibit any signs of wrong think, you can very well expect to be murdered. I mean, that's fucking crazy, but that's reality there.
Yeah.
Like by our standards, it's, well, at least by my standards, that's nuts.
Well, and it's also when you hear of some privileged American going there and not following like the rules of law, and then they're imprisoned in work camps. It's kind of comical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I feel sorry
Speak
for that
to
one
their
guy, like Otto Warm. I don't know his last name is. I'm gonna butcher it, but Otto, he died maybe like 8 years ago. Yeah,
It's sad, but it's kind of comical because it shows like this very privileged lens that these people
yeah.
looking through. Like I can do whatever I want because I'm an American. It's like, no, you can't. You're in North Korea.
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, Americans learned that the hard way, even getting arrested on Native American property,
yeah.
you know? Like this is like there's this one sign in Arizona that I think I saw when I was on the highway and I had to turn into a gas station and the gas station was on native land and there's this gigantic sign that says, "You are not in America. So don't come here thinking you can just, act a fool and steal shit," or those are
Yeah.
Melissa's words, not the sign's words, and think that there's not going to be a consequence. Like you're going to be sent to the Bureau of Indian Prisons and you may not come out for a while. So it's an entirely different system.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for that guy Otto because he ultimately, I think the prevailing thought is that he killed himself out of fear of what was going to happen to him. Um,
Did they ever send the bodies back?
yeah, they sent his body back the day after Trump got into office last
Hmm.
time. Yeah, they sent his body back. He was still alive when he was sent back, but he was gravely wounded.
Oh, I remember. I remember.
Yeah.
And that basketball player, I think she's still there.
Nope, she came back within a few weeks. But that was to Russia. That wasn't to North Korea.
Okay.
No, you don't want to, according to Mike, you don't want to get caught in Russia doing something wrong because they don't play by any semblance of rules. But North Korea likes money. So if you have the money, you can theoretically get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was telling me that the general rule of thumb is with like aviation is like under no circumstances do you want to crash land in Russia. So whatever you can do to get your plane to North Korea would be better because all you have to do is hand the credit card over at
And
the
they're gonna be
airport.
like, it's
And
terrorism, and they'll just like murder you.
the Russians, yeah, the Russians don't give a shit. But the North Koreans are like, oh, you have money? Okay, we'll take that. That might make it hard for you. Might not be pleasant, but
Yeah,
you
those
know?
are probably two places I'd just steer away from traveling. I'll travel a lot of places, but I mean, I might go. I would consider Russia, but I don't see any time in my life I would entertain going to North Korea.
No, there's no reason. I
Like,
would never go there. There's
it's
no reason
a
to.
shit place anyway. So I'm
No, I
risking
would
like
have no
being
interest.
jailed to just go into some weird dystopian place. No, I'm good.
No, it's horrifying. I wouldn't want to see people living like that. No, and I have a neighbor of mine. He has to travel to Russia for business, and he says, just even though he's there for like, he goes there on such like on a schedule, right? But every time he goes as soon as he gets to the hotel, and he goes to this hotel like once a month or maybe once a quarter, some scheduled amount of time. So he's seeing the same workers, right? But every time he goes, they always try to confiscate his passport. And he's like, no, I'm not going to let you just take my passport. And they're like, oh, we need to make photocopies of it. It's like, you took photocopies of it, 2 times ago. So it's like this like low level, steady harassment that people have to deal with when they go to
Yeah.
Russia. At least that's what I've heard.
Well, when I travel, I go with the understanding that I'm entering their world. They're not entering mine.
And that's how we should approach counseling.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
I'm entering their world, playing by their rules.
I went to Tanzania and that was my first experience internationally and I approached it that way from the start. I don't really know why I intuitively did it, but I was like this world is completely different than mine and I have to learn how to adapt to that.
Yeah. I mean, do no harm, right? You can't
Really
walk.
tied this back brilliantly today.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
no harm.
if I like go there and and also here's another parallel. It's like when I go to a foreign country, I understand that I right or wrong, I'm a representative of America of the United States of America. I'm a symbol and I hold myself as like a that there's a level of responsibility of how I carry myself as an American because we do have a bad rap in a lot of foreign countries because Americans like to bring their world into a foreign country.
Absolutely. I mean, I've told this to my kids, like, because they're like, oh, we want to go see the Harry Potter, the Cursed Child in London. And I was like, okay, first thing, they don't have chicken nuggets and ranch dressing. So what are you going to eat? Like, that's like you can't go to foreign places and expect to eat American food. That's just a small example.
Yeah. But you have to get accustomed to their customs, the way that they think, what their rules are of engagement. And I think as therapists, we need to be entering a client's world similarly.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
what are your client's rules? What is their worldview? Um, and we have to join that.
Yeah, I think that's where the magic happens, right? Is in that spirit, that felt sense of being understood. And then like that's what gives people a felt sense of safety, is if they're have like this sense of being understood and accepted
Yeah,
for
because
who they are as people.
if we think of initial engagements with clients as being in one room of a mansion, like in the real world, you take someone who's young into this building, like you want them to feel safe in that initial room first before you go explore the upstairs attic, right? You can't just come in and throw out all these different opinions and criticisms or have an energy of closed offness and then expect them to feel safe enough to explore outside of that one room.
Exactly. I think that's a beautiful metaphor. Yeah. Can't tell people that they just need Jesus and that's going to solve all their problems.
Oh, yeah, we don't have time for that. That brings up a whole other part of it's not even political, it's religiosity impacting um, the therapeutic experience. Christian counselors just makes me want to jump off a roof
Yeah.
because I'm like, it's in the code of ethics. How can you identify something that is a most obviously opposed the code of ethics of counseling.
Like which one, which specific code are you referring to?
I don't know exactly, but just the one about like religiosity or spirituality
Mm, I
and
gotta
not
reread
imposing,
that one.
like not imposing your. It's the same thing, right?
Oh,
Not
no, it's not
imposing
imposing your worldview.
your
Okay,
world, your
yeah.
values or religious affiliation in the counseling dynamic. But also, if
Yeah.
you're a Christian counselor, like, okay, you're gonna base intervention off the Bible. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I don't even know what that would look like in a counseling
Like,
session.
you have priests and stuff that want to do shit like that. Like, what?
But that's fine. If I go to a priest for spiritual guidance, I would expect him to make reference to scripture, right? Like that would make sense. That would be the appropriate context to do that.
The scope of practice. Like, go to a theologian. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. If you've got questions about the Bible, go to a theologian. Absolutely. Like I don't even know, but in a counseling session, what does using the Bible as an intervention even look like? I don't even know. I can't
Convert
even fathom.
conversion therapy. That's what it looks like.
I guess. I guess it could be. I don't even know how you can even do that because in my faith tradition, it's very philosophical. So many people can come together and read the same passage and come away with a multitude of interpretations. So, how can someone counsel from the Bible or counsel someone from a Christian perspective? There are multiple interpretations. It just doesn't make any sense. That's why there's so many sects of Christianity. I don't know. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah, and it's like if if I go to a Christian therapist and I say like I've had sex this year and I'm not married, like what does that mean? Like do I get criticism from that or like does that negatively impact our relationship or your perception of me? There's
Yeah. Would that impact whether you accept me as a person if I, engage in behaviors that you may not personally agree with?
and if
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
market
That's a
yourself
good
as a
question to
Christian
ask.
therapist, even if the client is Christian and they want that, they're going to hide certain things. There's going to be a transactional analysis based on their assumptions of what a Christian would want me to do or not do. So
Yeah.
they're gonna shift what they share as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Maintain
problem.
appearances.
Maybe we should just shit on Christian therapy on an
I will be the
episode.
first person to admit I don't know anything about Christian counseling. Um,
I don't really either. I just like see it and I just reject it. Maybe I should read up on. I mean, I know the horror stories of it, right? Conversion therapy being the main one,
yeah,
but I don't
um,
really know like in practice what is the methodology.
I have no idea. I guess I need to read more about that to be able to have like a well informed opinion.
Think I've just been scared to know. I just haven't. I'm like, that looks like a bad idea. I haven't even touched it.
Well, I mean, I remember like years ago, I had a client who, as a young child, had a bad experience with her parents, and the experience had a lot to do with a certain passage from the Bible and and that father's interpretation of that passage. And I had to be honest with her. I was like, I really don't have a way to help you with this thought process or analysis about this passage of the Bible because I'm so ill informed about this particular passage. So it's like, why don't you go to YouTube and look for sermons or, Torah readings or something like that about this passage? And she did that and she was able to better resolve it for herself. But I can only imagine like how, like, would I have reenacted the damage in session trying to like re explain that passage to her,
Mhm.
me not being a theologian.
Yeah.
It's like I knew my own limits,
Well, and
especially when it comes.
it's also just having that maintaining that energy of curiosity to where it's like, I don't know, how do you ask the client, like, what do you read from that sentence? Like, it's not up to me to discern that.
Exactly. I mean, that's a very succinct way to put it. Yes. Yeah. It's more important what the client's experience or understanding is than my own. Yeah. That's why I find Christian counseling very confusing.
Because it's impacting them based on how they perceive it, not on based on how you perceive it. So it
Hmm.
doesn't even matter how you perceive it.
Yeah.